All right, what the fuck's up, y'all? This is the Cuban Mike Boy. You listen to the Ruckus podcast in collaboration with the Tape Deck. And tonight, I would say this one is long overdue because I've been trying to get this man here for like the last 3 years. We're always in talks with doing it, but our schedule's all over the place. And my guy here has been like on the move. He's been moving faster than he never went before, but that's because he's a businessman. He's about his business. I met this brother a couple of years ago. Solid man. We were able to break bread when I was in Florida. I was able to do his podcast a couple of months later after that, man. And, I got a chance to tell my story out in Florida. So I'm just turning the favor. And he can tell the story out here to my Boston heads, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, I got my brother Nelson in the building. What's going on, bro?
Appreciate you, Cuba. Mike, what's going on, my man?
Hey, can't call it. Just trying to be warm out here in these streets, man.
Staying warm up north.
I
That's a
ain't
tall,
no much.
tall order.
Ain't got much of a choice in that department, bro. Um, Look, I'm gonna say this right now, man. Ever since, because I know last time we did the whole thing on audio, but now that you've been, you've done like the beyond upgrade and you've been doing the video thing, like you've been like on the move and just like upon episode upon episodes upon episodes upon episode, you then it became like, like the Cuban Tupac of this podcast, and you just be coming up week after week. And then not only that, I probably bet you probably got like 10 episodes you haven't even released yet because you feel like it's not even, it didn't come up the way you wanted to.
Probably more than that, bro. I probably got
Yeah.
like 20, 25 in the pipe that I haven't released yet. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like some unreleased shit.
Yeah, man. Just staying busy, you know. Podcasting gave me purpose when I had none. You know what I mean? Like, I was very lost and my life fell apart completely. And then I started podcasting and I felt a sense of purpose. You know, I felt a sense of direction. I felt a sense of accomplishment, even though I hadn't accomplished anything yet. But I felt like on the road, I was on the road to accomplishing something. So, podcasting for me, it's literally started giving me the opportunity to start a brand new life. So, podcasting for me is special. It means a lot.
Yeah. One thing I've seen when you've done your podcast, first and foremost, can you tell me people name of your podcast?
Sure, sure. So, I have a podcast called Honor Among Thieves. We actually rebranded at the beginning of the year. It's a true crime based podcast. So, if you're into true crime, we talk about, I mean, you name it. I have everybody on there from of course, convicted felons, people who have done Fed time, state time. More recently, I had one of the cocaine cowboys on. About to release that episode. Excited for that.
Oh, word.
Uh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh, I'm looking
yeah,
forward to that one. Let me know when you get that. I gotta hear that one.
for sure, for sure. Fraud, anything from fraud to drug dealing to you name it. We're gonna have some federal agents on next month. Um, and yeah, just anything true crime based. We're looking to tell good stories. You know, good stories of people who just have done things that are out of this world that most people can't even fathom living through, and ultimately the redemption of that person, like how they've come back into society, and now they're living a very different life and they're a very different person. So that's the premise of what I do over at Honor Among Thieves.
You said one word right now that just came into my redemption. That's the one thing I see in your podcast. Cause I catch your shit and it's just popping. So I got to give you props on that one, just the way you move or whatever. So I see you. I see you in these internet streets. But the one thing I do see when you watch your podcast is like you go through these trials and tribulations, but the one thing they do is try to redeem themselves. So redemption is the one thing I see right at the end of your podcast. It's like a dope comeback story. Everybody goes through something, but like their comeback and how they able like to persevere to whatever situation they got themselves into. They always find a way out.
Yeah, yeah. Redemption is important to me because I try to, as a person that's been through the criminal justice system especially on the federal level, there's not a whole lot of it's not a whole lot of what you think. Like there's no innocent till proven guilty. It's guilty till proven guilty, and you're still guilty even after you serve your sentence.
Mm.
Um, Society as a whole judges you. You're an outcast. You're not like everybody else. You're not given a shot. You're not given a chance to tell your story. You're not given a chance to do anything really. It's just this is the box you belong in now, and it's something you got to deal with for the rest of your life. So I decided to flip it on its head, and instead of being ashamed of it and not talking about it, and not bringing it up. I bring it up often, and I tell stories about it as often as I can, and I try to sit with other people who have been through similar situations to make people understand what it's really like. Yes, we brought this on ourselves. Yes, we broke the law. Yes, we went to prison, but that happened. That's not who we are anymore. You know what I mean? We tell you these crazy stories of the crazy things we did once upon a time, but just because someone is, you know, into rock music today doesn't mean they'll be into rock music 10 years from now. Just because someone, you know, dated this type of person doesn't mean they're going to like that type of person 10 years from now. Just because someone broke the law 15 or 20 years ago doesn't mean they're going to be a criminal for the rest of their life. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's just what I try to drive home. Like, I suck you in with the crazy crime story, of course, but then I show you a deeper side of the person, you know?
Yeah. One thing I have noticed, and I correct me if I'm wrong, and I did this, but it was like in reverse. When I first started my podcast, it's just pretty much to bring in like current events and trending topic, entertainment. I had rappers on my show, people that, do things involving entertainment business. And then like after like July 11, I just took a shift and just became all Cuban stuff, which it became like a weird gift and a curse because now I became like that Cuban guy. Like, all I do is talk about politics. Like everybody that knows me, they know I'm like a big hip hop head, but then like it's the
Yeah.
Cuban guy with the politics again. So it's like I got stuck with a weird stigma, which is good and bad at the same time. But now I feel as though sometimes I want to get off that box because it's like I had a rapper on my show out in my station, and he's a Cuban. He's actually Cuban. He was born in Cuba, but he ended up living in Boston. And by coincidence, the world being the small circle that it is, I ended up knowing his family. So then once they knew that he was coming to my show, he's like, "Oh, Cuban Mike, all right, whatever you do, don't bring up politics to him because he's gonna just drag you for the next like 3 hours about it." And I'm like, "Oh, I became that guy. I became that guy, really." And I told him
But
too, I don't want to. I know we got the whole Cuban thing, but I'll touch it real brief. But I would do want to talk about your artistry because he's a dope artist. But I didn't want to become that guy. And he actually, it's a weird thing because I was born here, but my parents are Cuban. He was actually born there, so he had his little story, whatever. He was telling it to tell his story, and it's the typical tragic story, whatever the case may be. And it's crazy because I put that segment on my page, and that's the one that got like a lot of traction. That he told the story. It was mainly from the Cuban community. So we and him and them end up talking. So I sent him a text, "Yo, you getting traction or this one clip?" And like, yeah, I'm seeing it because a lot of people were interested in get the story. Now they're familiar with his music. So it was like a dope thing. But I say that to say this, like I went from the hip hop to now the whole Cuban political activist kind of thing. Did you feel the same thing? Because I know when you started, it became like entrepreneurship. You took the whole thing with Cuba, but now you turned it around and it became like a true crime. I want to talk about people that went through the system, people just went through it that can't get able to like escape, whatever situation they're getting through. So do you feel as though you kind of did like a reverse thing? Not to say you're still not involved with the cop with Cuba, but it's like
right,
you
right.
kind of do the same
So
thing I
what,
did,
what
but in
happened
reverse.
with me? What happened with me is interesting. I went viral on accident. I wasn't trying to become. When I went viral,
We're gonna
I
get to that.
wasn't.
We're gonna get into that. Hold up. We're gonna get into that, but yeah.
Yeah, I started. I went viral on accident, really, just because I talked about how I felt. And then eventually I turned that into a podcast because it made me understand the power of speaking your mind.
Yeah.
You know, for anybody who's listening, like your people hear your voice when you speak, even though you might feel like, oh, these people got 2 million followers and this guy has 10 million, this guy has whatever. The power of social media has made it so that it's an equalizer. Like everybody has the opportunity to be heard,
Yeah.
and you never know who your story is going to resonate with. So yeah, man, like after I went viral, it made me understand the power of my voice and
Yeah.
like how my opinion can hold weight. So I decided to start the podcast. And yeah, at first it was kind of like an entrepreneurial motivational thing. And it was really, I took it in several directions. I did talk about the Cuba topic often. But ultimately, the only real reason I didn't talk about my case and what happened with me with the feds and everything in the beginning is because I was out on bond. So I at least wanted for the case to be closed or get sentenced first before I started talking about me getting caught up with the feds and going to federal prison and all that. So once I went away and I started hearing all these crazy stories, while I was locked up, it became clear to me of why I went to prison. I had to bring these stories to the world. Like it was these stories you can't believe.
Yeah.
Things I had never heard of before. And then I got out, and I kind of kept it on the motivational tip, on the entrepreneurial tip. I would touch up on Cuba here and there. But the more I touched up on my story, because I was out already, the more people would like it. Every clip where I talked about prison, or my former criminal life, all that stuff, people would love it. And it got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I actually went up north, linked up with Ian Big. Shout out to my boy Ian. And walking into his studio is what really cemented everything for me, because it showed me that there's such a huge demand for the genre that I just had to dive in head first. So in December, the first time I went to his studio, that's when I really decided to do the rebrand, and yeah, that's how I ended up becoming a true crime podcast.
Dope, dope. You know what's funny? You just mentioned something that I just remembered. A couple of months ago, I had an activist by the name of Orlando Gutierrez, Morat, and I told him the story, and it's dope. He's been like I got to give a big shout out to him because anytime I need something involved with like my show, he always come through without a problem. But I told him a story, and I was like, look, it gets frustrating because I've been doing this for like X amount of years. I should be getting like I got dope shit here. I should be getting like at least I'm happy with 200,000 Ks. You know what I'm saying? I should be getting that kind of fucking numbers. But it goes like under 2K or 100 or 200. But I don't get the numbers that I'm looking for. But um I went to a situation, I'll send you the episode, but long story short, I went to a situation, I saw one of my buddies just out and about, and he saw the shit that I was doing online. And he like, yo, I fucks with it. Like, yo, I didn't know this happened. And he was Dominican. He like, yo, I didn't know this happened in Cuba. I didn't know your mom went through this. I didn't know you went through that, what the case may be. So it's like, I'm at a point right now, like that the ego side of me would love to get those thousands or millions of views. But I think I'm at a point right now, I just want the right people to listen. If the right people listen to me, I think it'll just get to the right individual I need to get to. And somewhere around the line, it'll get me to the next plateau where I need to be connected at to get me to the next level. So I'm not even worried about numbers anymore. So
Well,
I've
you're
learned that.
because my podcast got no traction for a long time.
Yeah,
It got almost no traction for quite a while. I've been podcasting since June of 2002. We're now
yeah,
in May, almost approaching May of 2025. So I've been podcasting almost 3 years.
yeah.
And first, I would say the first year of my podcast, I got nothing. It was crickets. And it wasn't until I got back, because I actually ended up recording a bunch of episodes and scheduling them to premiere while I was gone. And it wasn't until I got back from being locked up that I actually started seeing some traction. And it happened on accident. Like, it was just from some stuff I had scheduled to post. And like I said, for me personally, I didn't even see the real results until a few months ago. So
Mm,
it's taken me a solid 2.5 years to start
yeah,
seeing numbers.
yeah.
So podcasting is a long grind, brother. It's a long grind,
I'm learning that.
and
I'm learning that. Commitment.
commitment,
Commitment.
dedication, and everything else will come. You just got to stick to it, and eventually, the people who need to hear your message will hear it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be like Jadakiss, that freestyle he had that got on viral. That's actually like a freestyle that damn near 15 years old, and it came back like it was a new song. So I was
Yep.
a mixtape head, so I knew about that freestyle. So now the freestyle came back and it's Brandon and Pugh, so he can't even go anywhere without doing that freestyle. So maybe that might be the plan in the future. I rehash all these old episodes and bring them back, and they'll get the traction it's looking for. So who knows?
Not to quote. I don't really mess with Fat Joe like that, but I'll quote him this one time. Yesterday's price is not today's. That's
Not
what's
today,
gonna happen.
so
That's
hey.
exactly what's gonna happen.
Let's call out in the air, man. Let's call out in the air, man, and master that. Let's throw it up to the universe. So yeah, man. I want to get, I want the people, the boss, to get to know Nelson. So I want to know like who is Nelson, who is the origin, and what is his origin? Nelson, tell us people your story. How
Of
did it
course,
all came
brothers.
about?
So me personally, born and raised in Miami, Cuban parents on both sides. My mother came in the Mario boat lift, just like our buddy Scarface.
Scarface
Anybody?
baby.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody that knows me knows I'm obsessed with Scarface the movie. You was included. My close friends call me Montana, and so that's
Mhm.
been a thing for years now.
Yeah.
My mother. came in the Mario boat lift, 1980, with my grandfather. My father crossed the Mexican border in 1988. He got a fake Venezuelan passport, escaped Cuba to Panama. In Panama, he took a bus to Mexico, and in Mexico, he crossed the border to Texas, where my aunt was waiting for him. So that's
Yeah.
how my parents got here. 100% Cuban on both sides, super Cuban. Spanish is my first language. Born and raised in Miami, which is basically Cuba in the first world.
Yeah.
Um, family members don't really speak English like that. I grew up in most of the neighborhoods I grew up in, no one spoke English. And when I went to Publix, everybody spoke Spanish. Gas station, everybody spoke Spanish. You name it, everybody spoke Spanish. So heavily tied to my Cuban roots. It's part of the reason why I could probably never move away from Miami, because this is the only city where you get that kind of Cuban culture. It's the only city in the entire country, and I'll take it a step further. It's the only city probably in the entire world where Cubans have such a heavy cultural tie, and you feel it everywhere you go. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's a blessing because, in spite of what happened in Cuba, in spite of Fidel Castro destroying that country and me not really being able to go like I wanted to, like Dominican kids or Puerto Rican kids or whatever, like, or Mexican kids, like how they used to go visit their family and stuff when they were kids. That happened to me, but not like that. Not like how I used to see other kids every summer. In spite of that, I still had a heavy, heavy cultural tie to my roots, and I thank God every day that I was born and raised in Miami, and this place exists. Because if I wasn't from Miami, I don't know who I'd be. I have such a like my culture is such a part of me, and such a part of who I am. Like everything about me. I'm as Cuban as you can get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yo, it's crazy because like I live in Boston, so ain't too many out there. So the closest thing I got from having a lot of Cuban outside of Florida is actually Jersey. So Jersey is like second place next to
Union City, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's where I'm from. But I only caught it for like the first 8 years of my life, and then I ended up moving to Massachusetts. So it was like now more than ever. It's crazy, not even more than ever. I could say I felt a little bit more Cuban when out of all places, it was Mexico because I'm going to Mexico to see some relatives out there, and I found out there's a part in Mexico that has like a little small Cuban community out there, and I was
Yeah,
able to rock out there, and I was able to get that Cuban flavor. So it was like once I got over there, I'm like, yo, ain't this a bitch? I gotta go to another country to get my Cuban roots. I skipped Florida. I completely skipped Florida. I just went to Mexico first, and then you know later on in life, I end up venturing Florida and end up getting the Cuban flavor and see the one thing the one thing I got from that, I got the Cuban past. Like once they found out that I had like some sort of Cuban background between my mother and parents, okay to me, and then being the small world that it is, like people are actually like the networking through Cuban is freaking phenomenal. Like I'll mention like Union City, whatever the case may be, and they'll just have like a weird traction, and they end up knowing my parents, they know my mother, my father, my grandfather, and I'm
yeah,
like, oh, he's good. It's like a secret passcode or whatever. Like it's like a weird cheat
yeah.
code.
I don't know what it is about Cubans. They all know each other, bro. It's crazy. It's wild.
It's
Here in
insane.
Miami, you have no idea how many times I'll be out with a fat. I remember this like it was yesterday, being out with my mom or being out with my dad or my uncle or my cousin. And my dad, he never forgets a face. We'll be out buying, I don't know, buying some pastries at a bakery. And then the guy will start talking. And then my dad will look to the right and be like, "Hey, ¿de qué barrio tú? What neighborhood were you from in Cuba?" "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Santiago La Vega." "Coño, that's where I'm from." And then like, "Oh, yeah, he," and then I'll be like, "Dad, who was that?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, he used to be my neighbor. We were in the sixth grade together or whatever." And it's like, bro, how do you guys all know each other? This is crazy.
The same thing happened. I was in Mexico. There were so many people that knew my mother out there that they was just like, through my relatives out there, that everybody knew my mother out there. Funny story, like one of the few, like when I in the beginning stage when I started being addicted to Miami, we ended up going to some spot about Calle Ocho. Out of all places, we go to this restaurant and my mom sees the dude that used to do her jewelry in Jersey like damn near 30 years ago. And he remembered my face, and he remembered my father's jewelry had just like every freaking Cuban. He like,
Of
yo,
course, right?
like you like your dad was like the best customer every time I head out there. He was my favorite. Anytime he come over, he was like, oh, we getting our rent paid this week.
That's
So
funny.
so our networking is phenomenal. So backtrack. I almost forgot as I was giving you like the introduction. I forgot you're an author too. You got a book.
I
Yes,
do, yeah.
please
Yeah,
tell the
I
people about the
became an
book.
author in May of 2022. I self-published. It's a book called Montana Method. You can get it out on Amazon. It was basically the reason I wrote that book is because at the time I was under federal indictment and I was out on bond. So I actually didn't know what my life was gonna be like or if I was gonna have a life. So so what ended up happening is I decided to write a book to leave something behind, like that version of my life,
Yeah.
because I knew what happened. I was gonna be living a very different life. I was gonna be a very different person very soon. So that's just a memoir of like that version of me. So go check it out if you want it. So I also have the audiobook on Spotify, Montana Method. So if you're an audiobook person, go check it out.
And who does the voice?
Me.
Oh, I thought wait, I didn't get the audio. I thought Richie did the audio.
No, he produced it. He produced it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get the audio. I
Produced
thought
the
he was
whole he
oh,
produced both versions. He produced the English and the Spanish version, yeah. But I
okay.
narrate it. I
Bad. Okay.
narrate, yeah.
All right. I thought he narrated it. Okay. All right, bet. I gotta check out the audio version. So
You had Richie on the show, I forgot.
yeah, I had him on the show, whatever. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to him. I gotta get him
Shout out.
again.
Make
Yeah,
sure
man.
in this, go check out his music. He has fantastic music. He's one of the best artists I've ever met, period. Not because he's my friend, not because he's Cuban, not because he lives in Miami. It's because he's talented. He's his producer, music video director, rapper, and sound engineer. Like the guy does it all. So make sure go
Yeah.
check out his music. And he actually produced the theme song, produced and recorded the theme song to my podcast. Bad Guy is the name of the song. So yeah, I have no words, can't describe how talented Richie is, and it's only a matter of time before he blows up.
Bet. And I believe you were in one of his music videos. You were in one of his videos, right? What
Yeah.
video was it?
By my side, Richie Rich featuring Erika and Angel Lopez.
Yes,
It's
yes, yes, yes.
kind of like a love, like a salsa rap love song. It's about this guy who's got this super hot chick, super hot girlfriend, and the chick actually kind of is a little bored in the relationship, and she starts entertaining this new guy. And then me, the old boyfriend, and the new guy have a confrontation. It's
Yeah.
cool. Go check it. Go check it
I
out.
saw it. Because I saw clips of the video. I'm like, yo, that's my man's in them.
Yeah. I can
I
add
saw it.
acting right now.
Yeah, might as well. All right, let me come after my slot, man. You already got the pod on lock right now, man. I'm trying to make things happen on the acting side. Become a rapper or something. Go battle.
Oh, speaking of acting, my boy's been in a feature film, in an independent feature film. That's dope. Yeah. I remember. I actually watched it.
Oh,
I watched your scene. I watched your scenes.
yeah, which is hilarious. I'm like, yo, there's like 2 hours. Like, I only saw like 20 minutes from you. I just saw you. Fast forward, saw you again. Fast forward. You didn't care about no part about the movie. It was just
That's
it just
funny.
be in it. But yeah, man. Um, I want to touch on something because um I had Kia on the show a couple of weeks ago, whatever, and we told us she told her story or whatever the case may be, and we both shared our experience that us being born here, we never got a chance to go to Cuba. I have yet to go on there. I would love to
Mm,
go somewhere in the near future. Don't know if I can at the moment, but I would love to be there sometime soon. Um, what was your experience when you went to Cuba? And was it like a one-time thing? 'Cause a lot of people with us, we just do it like once or twice, and then we just stop. Is that a
right.
continuous kind of thing?
So I have two different experiences of Cuba. I went as a child,
Hmm.
which is one experience, and then I went as a grown man. As a child, I remember being Cuba being this really cool place where I got to visit like family members, and I got to see where my parents are from and my grandparents are from, and it was almost like finding it was almost like finding this strange version of a home that I never saw. You know what I mean? As a kid,
Yeah.
that's how it felt. It felt like I was from there, but I had never seen that place. It's strange. That's the only way I can really explain it. Like I felt at home when I went to Cuba as a kid,
Yeah.
and I felt like everybody. I spoke Spanish like everybody else, and I was super comfortable. And as a kid, you don't really understand obviously poverty and communism and like how that destroyed that whole country or all that. You don't understand any of that. So going back as a grown man was interesting because I did not go to Cuba for 16 years. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I went when I was 10, and then I didn't go again until I was 26. Going as a
Wow.
grown man, I had a totally different experience because now I'm grown. So like I don't have to follow anybody around. I can just go and do whatever, I feel like doing. And as a grown man, now obviously I understood me as a tourist, I can do certain things over there and have a good time and this and that. But I clearly have family members that live there, and I'm very aware of what a regular Cuban goes through in order to survive in Cuba. So it
Yeah.
was very interesting to go back because I saw a very, it was weird. It was like being in the Matrix, like I see this kind of like fake version of this place because I have a little bit of money and I'm a tourist, but I can clearly see like what's really going on here. I see the buildings that are falling apart, and then next door they're building a brand new hotel. You know what I mean? I see like the roads in my family's town that are destroyed. Uh, you know what I mean? Like I see the things that people go through just to get food or try to fix a car. They have to, bro, miracles. They have to pull off miracles just to do regular things that you and me take for granted here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting going back as a grown man. Um, but yeah, and then those trips were all pre-pandemic. From what I've heard, I haven't gone back, but from what I've heard, Cuba's gotten very ugly, and from what I've seen and heard from family members, it's gotten even worse in the '90s when el periodo especial and all that was happening, when the special period was happening in the '90s,
Yeah.
which to be worse than that, that's pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my experience of those trips. Unfortunately, it's it's not to where it can be because I've traveled across South America, Central America, and I get glimpses of other places like Costa Rica or Colombia. And there's many areas that look very similar to Cuba, but obviously Costa Rica and Colombia have different systems, and they're a bit more, not a bit more, they're prosperous in many ways. And it's a shame because all I see is the potential of what Cuba could be, you know.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it's not that way. And will it ever be a free country? Who knows?
Crossing my fingers, man. Let's see if we get it, before we die or some shit like that. Cause I'm
Yeah,
crossing my fingers and time is still ticking out here. So let's
yeah.
see if that department.
I
And I've seen
I thought 2021 was it, bro. I was convinced when July 11th happened.
yeah.
I thought that was it, brother. That's what we have been waiting for over 60 years.
Yeah, we were all crossing our fingers. It has it gained momentum. I think the problem is we became a little bit too delusional because we thought that'll be it and once and for all it'll happen. But
Right.
unfortunately, it's taking more than that. It's unfortunately it's more baby steps because I do see the crumbling, but it's like they're
Mm.
still holding like every piece of their thing or whatever they could do to hold on to their powers. But I do see a crumble. I'm trying to be more optimistic more than ever. So let's see what
Yeah,
happens in the long run. Now that we got Rubio in office, I know he's for now kicking ass and dropping everything it's supposed to be. So we
yeah,
got a
definitely.
we got a lot of
That
leverage this time around.
that's huge because the whole Western Hemisphere speaks Spanish, and the
Yeah,
fact that now we have a Spanish speaker as the Secretary of State is huge.
yeah,
He's big. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but when everybody went into office and he got like officially appointed, his first matter of business was going around almost every single Spanish speaking country and
yeah,
be like, "Hey, brother, it's a different era now.
yeah.
You're
Party
gonna deal
over,
with me." Yeah,
party over.
part,
So I
you
see
know,
him kicking ass, and I'm not even a fan of his politics like this. But what we need to get done with our struggle, I feel as though he's the go to to get things done.
I
And
couldn't agree
whatever
more.
I could rock with that department. I could rock with him.
I
Like, yo,
couldn't
whatever
agree
you gotta do, settle this shit or what shit. I could settle all the other shit I don't agree with because a lot of things I don't agree with him. But with this right here, now we gotta go. It's go time.
100%.
It's go time.
100%.
So
Take it.
so
Time to take off the kitty gloves and get to work.
100%. So um I want to forward. I'm gonna be all over the place, so it's gonna be very unorganized. But there's a lot of things that'll
No,
be all
no
over.
problem.
So there's the
No problem.
beauty of the ruckus podcast is unorganized chaos. but sometimes it can be organized chaos. So it's a beauty of it, man. I want to fast forward because one of the things I've been doing too with my pod is having prominent Cubans on the show, and I do want to touch on 9 September. September. I'm stuck on 9 7/11. Um, it sounds like a broken record, but like I said, my peoples, it ain't too many of us up north. So what I got to do is get my people down south to come up north and tell their stories and see how things get down and why I'm telling the stories that I got to do for my folks. So with July, I don't know why the hell I got September 11 in my mind, but on 7/11, on 7/11, where,
July.
what, yeah, 7/11, where were you when that happened, and what was your first reaction?
So I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my aunt's living room. It was me, my aunt, my grandma, my father, and my father's girlfriend at the time. And we put on YouTube and we see San Antonio de los Baños hit the street.
Yeah.
And that's funny because that's the town where my father was born.
Okay.
So we were like, San Antonio de los Baños. What? What's going on here? And then you see La Habana, and then you see Camagüey, and then you see like the whole country just up in arms. And the very next day, I started seeing, people started talking mad shit, and the politicians saying this and people saying that. And it took very little time for me to get fed up with what people were saying online.
Yeah.
It took about a day. And I said, you know what? I don't care what happens. I don't care if this gets 0 views. I have to speak my piece. And I'm just going to say what I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to tell people what's up.
Yeah.
And basically, what I was saying on that video is, and I'll try to find the link somehow and send it to you. Basically, long story short, on the video, I was exposing why the UN wasn't going to help Cuba. The United States was not going to help Cuba. And basically, no one was going to help Cuba for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, and this reason. I
Mhm.
started off with the United States. At the time, Joe Biden was president. I showed a very clear picture of Obama shaking hands with Raul Castro. Does it look like they give a fuck about what happens in Cuba? No. They want to keep it that way. It's very clear, right?
Yeah.
Then I flipped it to the UN. And we went at the time, I don't know, I don't think she's in that position anymore with the UN, but at the time, the High Commissioner for Human Rights at UN was this lady named Michelle Bachelet. Michelle Bachelet is a former socialist president of Chile. Like, she's a communist. You feel me?
Yeah.
So if a communist is running the UN, obviously they want Cuba to stay the way it is. And then
Yeah.
I showed pictures of her shaking hands with Hugo Chavez, Nicolas Maduro, Fidel Castro, Evo Morales in Bolivia. I mean, you name it, every socialist piece of shit that's on the planet.
Yeah. Just sucking
So
them off.
I basically, yeah. Basically, I just exposed, like, you guys don't understand. The reason they're not going to do this is because they want it that way. These people are all communists.
Yeah.
They're all socialists.
Mhm.
And with a little more pep in my step and a little more oomph in my voice, but basically, and a whole lot of cursing because I was pretty pissed. And the video went viral overnight, got like 100,000 views. Famous Cuban people started following me because of it.
Yeah.
Luna Star and Vita Guerra and all these just famous people. And they were DMing me like, it was crazy. It was overwhelming because I was
Yeah.
a normal guy. I didn't even have the podcast at the time. And then, but yeah, like I said earlier, I thought that was the moment we had all been waiting for, but apparently it wasn't, and it was pretty disappointing. So basically, from there, slowly but surely, like I said, that's why I decided to start the podcast and get my voice out there. So that's July 11th in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, I saw the clip because you sent it to me. As a matter of fact, I found it again today, and I had to like look at the video again. And brother, like the passion and the rage, like I felt that. I felt that
Mm.
when I saw it 3 years ago, and I even felt it again because I'm like, yo, like this is how the fuck we feel. I think between your video and the video that Grecia had the first time that went viral, I'm like, yo, this is the fuck that we're going through right now. And like I felt that shit. I felt that shit like through my soul and my body. So one thing that we all got to be grateful for is this thing called social media and the internet. And that's the one thing that the Cuban government cannot stop. It might be
100%.
it could be, I mean, it's not it's a weapon, what I mean, it's not a weapon we could kill with, but it's a great weapon we could all just network from Jersey to Boston to whatever, but we could
Agreed.
tell people their experience and their stories. So everybody got a chance to have their own testimonial of what the hell's going on out there. So,
I,
I appreciate, what I mean, coming from Mass, you putting that out there. I know people try to stop it over the case may be because we still got people that support the garbage, but nothing stopping this. Nothing stopping
mm,
it for the whatever case may be. And even though we didn't get the result we wanted to with like July 11th, and people pay attention or whatever the case may be. I
right.
will say this. I feel as though it sucks because we're not Israel or Palestine, so we don't get the same traction that we get. We're not Ukraine or whatever the case may be. So I know they're happy to the fact that we're not on the world's radar the way it should be because they paid off their cronies to make it look like that. But the people that
Yeah.
are in the know, they're all in the know. So they do fear that part. If we could just find some sort of way to just get the voice a little bit more louder, it'll completely shut that shit down.
Yeah, and I'll to second kind of like the whole Ukraine thing. Something interesting that happened back when the whole Ukraine Russia thing started. Elon Musk like almost immediately turned on Starlink and gave the whole country free internet. And
Uh-huh.
when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting. Like Cuba, the whole thing that was happening back then was the government was shutting off the internet, trying to make sure like limiting communication and all that. And I was like, damn, bro, we're 90 miles away from the United States.
Yeah.
And again, like I'm not saying Elon should have or shouldn't, but how about Jeff Bezos, bro? Like Jeff Bezos is half Cuban. His father
Yeah.
is Cuban. Like his last name is Bezos, like kisses.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, damn, dog, like I feel you, bro. You were born in the United States. I get it. But like all you guys got to do is flip a switch. Like flip a switch. And
Yeah.
that's it. The whole island would have had internet. And that alone, who knows what could have happened
Hmm.
back then, like if somebody would have done that. And God bless Maria Elvira Salazar that she was trying to make that happen, trying to get internet over
Yeah,
there.
she
And
fought for that. She fought for that, and
yeah,
they went on deaf ears. Unfortunately, she didn't have the power to get that thing done. But like I say, I think with this big old turnaround that we got a lot of Cubans in charge right now, running certain things right now.
100%.
All we need is leverage. We didn't have that 4 years ago because if we had the leverage, we could have probably
Yeah,
shut that shit down. For now, I think this time around we got, and I know for Rubio, this is very personal for him. So for the fact that it affects him for his soul because of what happened to his parents, the way it got affected our parents, it's personal for them. So he's not gonna let this one slide. And I know they shook in the island right there because they know it's like, oh shit, like some shit about to go down. So,
100%. Yeah,
and plus he
yeah.
got the madman as a president right there, so he had no problem pushing the red button if he has to. So whatever the case may be, so I'm here for it. I'm here for the shits. So.
But where I used to have I don't know where I put it. I used to have a red button. I was gonna be like, push it, push.
Any moment, man. Any moment, we're here for it,
Yeah,
man. So
definitely,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. So I want to forward, you know what I mean, because I want to get into something personal, man. You got caught up with the mix in the system, and tell the story. You know what's crazy? Like I hear your story that you got caught up with fraud, but I didn't know like what led to you doing fraud. Like was it like
Yeah,
some kind of
yeah, yeah,
was it some kind of white collar crimes kind of stuff you were getting caught up with? And
yeah, yeah. White collar crime. Yeah.
and it's one of those things you should have stopped when you were ahead, but the money was too good.
Uh, yeah, something like that.
That would
Basically,
happen. That would happen to all of us because I know people that cut up in the mix, and they in their mind they're like, it's like an addiction. They be like, all right, I'm gonna make this and then
right.
stop. But then I know the money's too good, so like, all right, I'm gonna do it two more times, and then I'm gonna
I,
stop. Okay, I'm gonna do it for 3 more months, and then
yeah,
I'm gonna stop.
yeah, brother. Like the funny thing is, whenever you see other people doing dumb shit, it's easy to point it out. But when you're doing dumb shit,
Yeah,
it's it's not so easy to stop.
and you
you know,
also you get that thing in your mind that's like, oh, it can never be me because I know how to move. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You always hear the same story. I thought it was special. I thought we get away with it. I thought I moved it, but I'm like him. He was stupid. He was sloppy.
Yeah, man. Basically, so I'll tell you the story. So basically, I'm working at this dead end job I hate. I can't stand this job. I'm working 9 to 5, sucking, soul sucking job, all that stuff. And I get approached by this guy that has some connections at some clinics, and he basically says, "Listen, if you come through, I could shoot you some bread." but I didn't really know what he was talking about. Like it wasn't really he didn't really explain things in a typical shady Cuban Miami fashion. That's all.
Ah,
That's a whole. So I come through. I sign some papers, and then he calls me after I leave the place, and he's like, "Yo, come through, meet me at this place," and he hands me $800 in cash. And I was like, "Well, man, all right, that was easy."
yeah.
And then he starts asking me, "Listen, who do you work with? Do you have other people that work with you have this insurance?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, they do." And then he basically lays out something where he wants to work out a deal with me for everybody that I bring. He'll pay me some money. You're talking to a dude who's flat broke at the time. I have no money. I
Yeah,
don't have much going on besides this dead end job.
yeah.
So I knew it was illegal, but I thought it was like get fined and like get probation illegal. I didn't think it was FBI arrest at 5 in the morning illegal. So
Oh, that's what happened. You got the knock.
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll
Oh,
get
did
to
it?
that.
All right.
We'll get to that. So basically, I start sending this guy some people that work with me to go get physical therapy services,
Mhm.
and he's paying me, and
Yeah.
things are going great. One person turns into four people turn into eight people turn into 20. Before you know it, I've referred this guy like 35 people, and I've probably made upwards of like six figures. You know,
Ooh,
yeah, yeah. I mean, people try to ask me how much money I made. I honestly don't know. What I can tell you is, in the full trajectory of that year and a half, I probably made. I don't know how much I made, but cash money that went through my hands because I had to pay people, right, and shit. So I didn't keep all the money, but so it's like $500,000 in cash at least, something wild like that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So uh, one day I call this guy owes me $5,000, but he was good for it. Like we had a running tab. He always owed me three, two, one, and it was never a big deal. He'd pay me eventually. This one day he doesn't answer the phone. So what do I think? He's trying not to pay me. He just disappeared on me, changed his number.
yeah,
So I'm like doing this mental process of getting pissed. I'm ready to like show up at this guy's house. You know what I mean? All that I know where he lives, all that stuff. I get a phone call from a lady that I know that used to like do business with him, and she basically tells me, "Hey, we got to meet up. We can't talk on the phone." So I already knew what time was. If you can't talk on the phone and you only want to talk in person,
yeah.
something's up. So she meets up with me and she's like, "Hey, homeboy just got arrested by the FBI today. So this is
Uh,
over.
uh,
This is over."
yeah,
I said, "Whoa, okay." I didn't think much of it. I was like, "All right, whatever. He got arrested. It is what it is.
yeah,
I'm gonna move on with my life. I'm gonna stop doing this." But of course, I get approached by some of his associates, and they want to keep the scam going. They just want to keep racking it up, and
yeah,
it's like, bro, I think to myself, yeah, it was my fault because I kept doing it, obviously. But what possessed these retards? What possessed these idiots to approach somebody they didn't know to keep the scam going after the cops are already on you? Like,
yeah.
anyway, that's greed, brother. Greed is like,
It gets the best
greed
of
is crazy.
it gets the best man. It gets the best of us.
It does. It does. It really does. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So basically, they offer me more money.
Uh,
So it's like, okay, let's do this again.
yeah,
And on the second go about, I made at least another like 150 grand probably.
yeah,
So that one was short. That lasted about 6 months. Basically, I have an attack of conscience when a friend of mine calls me over to her house, and she basically tells me, "Nelson, the FBI was at my house today and they were asking questions. They didn't pull up a picture of you. They didn't talk about you specifically, but they talked about all the people you do business with that I know.
yeah,
So I'm going to ask you to please stop doing this because it's going to end ugly."
yeah,
And I had such an attack of conscience. It was so embarrassing to be called over by a woman that was older than me. She's much older than me. So I
yeah,
respected her like my aunt or my mother. B, someone who had never been, she had never gotten so much as a speeding ticket in her entire life. For the FBI to show up at our door and for me to be the cause of it was like so much
yeah,
shame and embarrassment.
yeah.
Yeah, not even funny. So
The guilt.
that was in June of 2018. I quit. That's the day I no longer was. I put up, I retired the hat. I hung up the hat for being a fraudster. No more fraud, no more criminal life, all that stuff. And I went about and I lived my life. I let that go, and I kept growing my business. I kept traveling every couple months like I love to, and life was great. I was about to sell my company, and I had made some money in the stock market. My life was good. Pandemic rolled around, so things were getting weird. But financially, I was doing good. Life was good. I get back from a vacation from Colombia in July of 2021, maybe 2 weeks after July 11th, more or less. And 3 days after I get back from the vacation, I get a weird phone call from a phone number I don't recognize. And it's 5 in the morning. So I just turn off my phone and I go back to sleep. But then I get a knock at my door. And I open my door and it's my aunt. My aunt is never awake at that time. My
Yeah.
aunt is my landlord. She's like, listen, la policía está afuera. The cops are outside. The cops? What do you mean the cops are outside? I get the same call from the same phone number to my phone. I'm like, all right, maybe I should answer this time. I answer. Hello? Yes. Nelson Rodriguez? Yes. It's agent such and such with the FBI. You have 5 minutes to come outside. Click. And I'm like, man, these guys are fucking with me. The FBI is not outside my house right now. I walk outside. There's 4 City of Miami cruisers down one side of the street, another 4 City of Miami cruisers down the other side of the street, and about 8 FBI agents pointing AR-15s at my house. I'm like, bro, what am I, Osama bin Laden?
I'm saying, what the fuck?
What is going on here? So basically, at that point, I'm in fear for my life, so I don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
Put my hands up, put my hand behind my head. They arrest me, they take me. I hand my phone to my aunt and I tell her, call my parents to let them know what's going on. At first, I thought it was just some sort of a mix-up. I was like, all right, we'll clear this up at the station. They probably have the wrong guy. Honestly, I thought they were looking for my dad because bullshit like this has happened to me in the past, and me and my dad have the same name. Not going to go into detail on that. But anyway, they take me to FBI headquarters in Miramar, which is about half an hour north of my house.
Yeah.
And they sit me down in this big warehouse by myself. I'm handcuffed, and I'm like, man, I'm going to walk out of here in a few hours. I'm not worried about this. As soon as they start bringing in other people that they arrested, it was over. I recognized their faces immediately. I was like, oh my God. No!
So,
and it was a wrap from there. It was a wrap from there.
So, hold up. So, this happened in 2018. So, after that happened, they was just, so they were like, what, the whole time? Yeah, so 3 years after. So, between 2018 and 2021, what they were doing, they were building. They were building who was getting caught up the whole
Basically,
time.
they were building a case, pretty much arresting people, getting people to snitch, all that. So what ended up happening was my plug that got arrested, he got arrested for a different case that had nothing to do with me or anybody I was doing business with.
Mm-hmm.
He got arrested for some other stuff, but like a good scammer, he had his hands in every scam in Miami. So when he gets caught for that scam, he's facing 14.
Yeah.
Homeboy is not doing 14. He's like, wait a second.
Let's negotiate.
Let me tell you about all the other scams I got going on.
Yeah, let's negotiate. Let's get to the table and negotiate.
Yeah, and he basically blew the lid off my case, which the feds weren't even aware of.
Yeah.
And he opened a $7 million fraud case on us.
Oh.
And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then the pandemic. So their excuse was the pandemic happened. The funny thing is, so his sentence gets dropped down from 14 to 2. So he ends up doing 2 years. He's out by the time I get arrested. Like, he served his sentence already.
Yeah.
And then I get arrested. So
he gets out, you come in.
I come in. They hold me for 1 day. I'm able to get out on bond.
Yeah.
And I was out on bond for about a year and a half. It was torturous. Being out on bond was worse than prison, in my opinion.
I heard about that. I heard about that. Because like, you're at a point like, yo, and they're fucking with you in your head, like, am I going to do it? I'm not going to do it. Let's put me in. Let me just get it over with. Yeah, exactly. I hear it's a mental fuck.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I get sentenced a year and a half later in October of 2022.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had started podcasting by then, so I drew up this little strategy to keep dropping content while I'm gone. I go in January of 2023. With an 8-month sentence in Coleman, Central Florida. It's the biggest federal prison complex in the country. I'm designated to the camp with all the other white collar criminals. Whoever tells you a camp is like white collar, oh, you're gonna go in there and learn from millionaires. Listen, bro, you might, you probably won't. All right, you're gonna go in there. At least where I was at, I had major drug dealers from Puerto Rico. Major.
Yeah,
I'm talking about jefes, right?
yeah,
I had major gangsters who were caught up in some crazy drug cases. Like I was around real gangster street guys from Puerto Rico, real gangster street guys from Miami. So that whole club fed, sometimes it is and sometimes it ain't. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah, and the prison system in Florida is infested with Puerto Ricans because we're the closest American territory to Puerto Rico, and Puerto
mhm,
Rico's prison system is failing; it's falling apart. So
yeah.
they ship over all their inmates over here. But anyway, so I did about 5 months. Prison was good for me in many ways. I got good with God and my spirituality. I read a lot. I read about 100 pages a day. I was exercising twice a day. I made very lifelong friends in there, people I'm friends with to this day,
Yeah.
and very solid people, solid dudes. And I got out and I felt like a new person. I felt like I was starting a new life because I pretty much was. Started podcasting, started telling my story, at least a new version of my story, right?
Yeah.
And I started linking up. I was blessed enough to link up with people like Ian Bick, Ross Mandel, and here we are. I rebranded Honor Among Thieves, telling true crime and prison stories, and it's going good. Here we are.
Hey, you are a perfect example of what a redemption should be, brother. So,
I appreciate it, man.
yeah.
Appreciate that.
All right. So, one of the things I want to touch upon, no one's built for that kind of shit when you get caught up with the system. So, when that happened, well, it happened. So, boom, you end up going to jail. Was it a situation because you hear the stories there? Were there a situation where you were like, well, a two-part question. Were you like in fear of your life? And what was the first things that you went to when you went to how they'd be like, what the fuck? This is what I'm staying at for 8 months?
Well, everybody kept telling me, "Oh, you're going to a camp. That's not a big deal. You're going to a camp. You'll be fine." But
Which is
how the
bullshit.
fuck am I supposed? Well, yeah, but how the fuck am I supposed to know what that even means? I've never been to prison. Oh, you're going to a
Yeah,
camp. You'll be good.
yeah,
So it's like, but anyway, basically, there's four levels of security in the federal system in the United States. There's the pen, which is where the real hardcore motherfuckers go to, like real hardcore. The medium, which is still pretty hardcore, still ran by gangs, but it's a little better. You get to go outside a little bit. You still got to watch your back and you still got to click up in order to survive in there. The low, which is a little better. You get to be outside a little more, have a lot more open space, not as restricted, but still in there with some hardcore guys. And then you got the camp or the minimum. That's where I was at.
okay,
There, certain types of individuals are not allowed in there. Sex offenders, for one, are not allowed in there, period.
yeah,
So no chomos, they can't pass the low. Um, any violent offenders, so assault, murder, sexual assault, all that shit, you can't go past the low. So I wasn't around. At least that's not what they got caught for. Let me be specific.
yeah,
The charges that they were brought up in their case, in that specific case, were not violent crimes. So it was
yeah,
mainly drug dealers and white collar crime guys.
yeah,
And there was never a point where, I mean, the first night, I'll tell you about my first day. I'm watching my back the whole first day I'm there because I'm just not aware of my surroundings, right? I go to take a shower that night. Mind you, I'm like the only Cuban in the whole unit. There's like two Cubans in my whole unit out of like 200 people. It's
yeah,
like 150, it's like 150, 170 Puerto Ricans, 30 black dudes, and two Cubans.
yeah,
So I'm in the shower and I'm taking a shower and I hear Cuba. And I'm like, oh shit, here we
yeah.
go. Here we go. I'm like getting mentally prepared to like fight somebody butt naked in my fucking shower. But that's not the case. That he was because I had taken off my slippers and put them at the end of the stall, and that's a no. You're supposed to wear them because you can get fungus and all kinds of nasty shit on your feet.
Okay,
I'm not gonna go into detail about what people do in the shower in there, but anyway.
yeah,
So I get out and I go to my room and I'm drying myself off, and Mello walks over. Mind you, Melon is a Puerto Rican gangster with a scorpion tattoo on his face.
yeah. Well, one hell of a introduction.
So I look at Mello, and then he's like trying to. He's real nice, real calm. He's like, Cubano, ponte la chancleta cuando entra ahí en la, put your put your slippers on when you put your slides on, bro. You're gonna get some fungus on your feet. And
Yeah,
then the Cubans walk over and they're like, bro, have you never done time? What are you doing? It was funny. It was
yeah,
pretty funny. But after that, there was never a moment where I felt threatened or anything. Thank God I was in a cool place with
yeah.
some cool dudes. No one was really trying to do anything crazy, and I made friends with good people in there. So
Yeah.
You know,
All right. You said earlier on that it was like a good thing. So was it like a blessing in disguise, I guess, that you got caught up like that?
I would say
'Cause-
so. I would say so. At this point in my life, I feel like God sent me to prison for a reason. He sent me to prison to hear the stories I needed to hear. Like if I would have never been in a prison and heard the stories and met these people and been there myself, I wouldn't have believed that like stories like that existed or people like that had been through what they've been through. You know, like I was in there with a gentleman who actually is out now, Brother Kenny. Shout out to Brother Kenny. Brother
Right.
Kenny had, mind you, I'm 32 years old. Brother Kenny went into prison before I was born, and he was still there when I got there.
Ugh. Ugh.
Brother Kenny just got out of prison. He was the last signature Biden did right before he left office, the last clemency. Brother
Okay.
Kenny just got out in January.
Okay.
So, mind you, like this guy went in before I was born, and he got out after I got out.
Yeah.
Like, you put that into perspective, and you're like, what? That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I got stories for days. I became, I don't know if you're familiar with the Booby Boys, but that was a big thing here in Carroll City back in the day. It was a
Mhm.
big group of these guys that moved a lot of weight.
Yeah.
This guy Spoon, he ran that crew back in the day down here in Miami. I was in there with some interesting guys and some crazy stories that I'm really excited to bring to the world.
Bad, bad. So I guess through all that, I mean, it was a blessing in the sky, but what was the most valuable lesson that you got from that experience?
Patience, I would say.
Yeah.
Patience. Your things aren't going to happen on your timeline. Things aren't going to happen when you ask them to. And you need to pay attention to the things that are happening that you don't want to happen
Yeah.
because those are things that are supposed to be happening.
Okay. Bad, bad, bad. Patient.
Yep.
That's one thing. Like it's crazy. 'Cause my mom always called me Mr. Patience because I'm always like nothing really gets on my nerve or bugs me. So when I lose it, that means something really pissed me the hell off. But I'm through this whole like media thing with the whole podcast, with the radio station. That's one thing I'm learning is patient. I mean, even I think I told the story a couple of years ago when I was dealing with these politicians in Massachusetts and dealing with the whole thing with Cuba and all the shenanigans that they just like did us dirty. I'll tell you what happened behind the scene where the whole thing is over, but I've learned about patience and I learned about karma. Sometimes sometimes it's out of your control. And if you believe in God, you let God handle it, or you let the universe say, don't worry about it. It's gonna come to you sooner or later, whether good or bad. If you're a good person, good things will come to you in bad time. If you're a bad person, bad is like whatever energy you give out is gonna come back to you. If you're a good person, it'll be good. If it's bad, then it's bad.
I couldn't agree more, brother. Surrender is the word I would use. Like you have to surrender to life sometimes. Being stuck in four walls and being stuck in a prison, there's not a whole lot you can do. And there's zero you can control outside of like what you do with your day. Your
Yeah,
routine is really the only thing you control. So yeah, man, like patience. Patience was a huge, huge lesson for me. And I'm glad that after I left and I took a step back and you can see things 2020 vision from like a bird's eye view, I see why everything needed to happen the way it happened. I
bad.
needed my life needed to get destroyed the way it did because I was never gonna change my life. Like I was dead set on what I wanted for my life and the goals I had. And unless it was like ripped from me and taken from me, I was never gonna start a new life. So I'm blessed for it.
It's a very humbling experience. I see that you got from it also. Very humbling
To
experience. So,
say the least.
yeah. So I got to get to a ratchet question. What was the most ballingest thing you did with that money when you was balling out here in these streets? What was the most shenanigans thing you did? Like
Oh,
were you buying out the bar? Were you tricking? Were you just flying left and right? What was the most
uh,
balling thing you did out here?
I was good for a vacation every 60 days. So
Yeah,
yeah, whether it was Costa Rica, whether it was somewhere in the United States, whether it was Mexico, whether it was a cruise, my thing was traveling, brother. I didn't give a fuck about what car I drove or what Rolex watch I was wearing. My thing has always been experiences. So I stayed in a pretty baller ass. I'll tell you about this vacation I took to Costa Rica. I stayed in a pretty baller ass place. I
yeah,
had a whole 2 floor mega suite to myself. I
yeah.
was facing the beach. You know what I mean? Like baller at this place. If you ever go to Costa Rica, I recommend this place called Club del Mar,
Yeah.
off the chain. That's probably the most baller shit I did while I was out here on the streets.
Nice, nice. Was
That
was was
vacation.
Co- was Costa Rica like your favorite spot, or at least top
Yeah,
three?
100%.
Or Costa
100%.
Rica? Yeah,
Costa Rica was off the chain, brother. Off the chain.
yeah. I gotta try this sometime this summer. So, okay. So I gotta talk this with you because another ratchet thing. Can you talk like what does Scarface speak to you? Because I know what it means to me. Because I know your book cover, you got Scarface cover. Can you tell people the audience like the significance and the importance of Scarface to our peoples?
Of course. So I'll start with this. Name, besides Tony Montana, name a fictional Cuban character in film, in cinema. Name one.
Well, I can't think of one, but if I want to think of fictional, oh Lord, I think next to Tony Montana, go to Razor Ramon. But outside of
All right.
that,
Fair enough. And you know what's funny? Razor Ramon got the inspiration for that character from Tony Montana. How about that?
yes, I know
So
that, I know that. I was a big Razor Ramon fan.
there's no other iconic film, classic film that has a Cuban character in it. There isn't.
Yeah,
Let's start with that. There's no other portrayal of a Cuban in film. Period. The only other guy who you can talk about is who? Ricky Ricardo. He don't count. He's a real
yeah,
Cuban.
yeah,
Feel me? And don't get me wrong, I love Ricky Ricardo. Like
yeah,
Desi Arnaz, they did their thing for Cubans.
yeah,
But aside from him, I can't name one fictional Cuban character or Cuban character in film. Period.
yeah,
So let's start with that. And not only that, he's a fictional Cuban character who tells a real story that really happened. Like, yeah, Tony Montana is not a real person, but Los Marimberos,
there's
like
a
the
lot.
drug game,
There's a lot of Tony
the
Montanas.
Marielitos,
A lot of Tony Montanas out here.
everybody has an uncle, everybody has a grandfather, everybody has a
Father.
cousin
Yeah,
that got in the game. Let's be real here.
yeah,
Everybody has a family member that was in the game in the 80s in Miami.
yeah,
Let's be real. So aside from that, it's a realistic portrayal of something that really happened in Miami with Cubans. Not all
yeah,
Cubans, but a portion of Cubans, right?
yeah,
So it's a realistic story. It's a fictional Cuban character. It's iconic because 42 years later, that movie, like every time it goes on Netflix, it's on the top 10.
yeah.
Every time.
That's the time.
What he stands for is the American dream, brother. I have a couple of t-shirts, Scarface t-shirts that say the American dream, and I have Scarface that has his face on the back. Scarface is the American dream, brother. Let's
With a vengeance. With a vengeance.
with a vengeance. He loved the
Vengeance.
American dream with a vengeance. That's what the t-shirt says. Let's take out drug dealing. Let's take out murder, violence. Let's talk about his story and let's just exclude those couple things. Cuban immigrant that gets here with nothing but holes in his shoes. Starts working at a cafeteria to get his first job with his homie. Looks for opportunities to level up in life.
Yep.
Survive by any means necessary. Comes up in the game. Gets a mentor. Starts making moves. Monster negotiator. Confidence of the wazoo. Ambition.
Yeah.
There's so many positive traits and positive things that I can choose and like see in Tony Montana that any man can admire. Forget Cuban, any man, any person can admire those traits. And you have to admire it because the guy showed up here with nothing and 2 years later was the most powerful and rich cocaine drug dealer, businessman in the United States. Let's take it a step further.
Go ahead.
Let's take it a step further. If he had chosen selling cars, opening a restaurant, starting a clothing line, you name it, whatever. If he had chosen anything besides cocaine, he would have been the best at it. He would have been a multi-millionaire because he had the traits. Like, it's the man that makes the story. It's not the story that makes the man.
100%. And not only that, if you notice the movie, the one thing that people also sleep on, even though he was in a crooked game, he had dignity and rules to that game. It was like an honor amongst thieves. Like, even though I ain't gonna screw you, we're gonna be handled it like gentlemen or whatever the case may be. Even with the infamous chainsaw scene, he handled that like a gentleman until he got screwed over.
Yeah, agreed. And
Yeah.
a lot of people argue that the reason he ended up dead is because of the whole not willing to kill kids and children. You know what I mean?
Look at that. That would happen. I mean, that and he would know he would end up, being a cokehead. That didn't help neither, but that was the one thing that did a bit too. The one thing he was honorable in it.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, man. And even though he was an honorable thing, he was also an asshole. But even when an asshole, if she had on him, it was still like an honorable thing. Like he had a limit to his
He,
shitness.
yeah, and that's another lesson you can learn from Scarface. Don't take shit from nobody, brother.
Yeah,
Stand your ground, your principles. Like this is what it is, and if people don't like it, oh well, so what? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, yeah, man. That like the scene that sticks out to me. There's several. I mean, the scene that sticks out to me is the scene where like he's working in the cafeteria, and then he walks out to the Cadillac to talk to Omar,
yeah,
and Omar's like, "Oh yeah, 500," and he's like, "500? Who do you think we are? Baggage handlers?" Like,
yeah,
mind you, see that the guy has holes in his shirt. He's sweating. Like the man just got like off like a 12-hour shift. Like he's
yeah.
clearly broke, but he's got the confidence of like nobody you've ever seen. Another scene I love in that movie. He's down in Bolivia and he's negotiating on Frank's behalf, telling him 13.5. Forget about 13.5. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he just exuded confidence, brother. Exuded. And that's one of the many reasons Tony Montana to me is just an immortal character that I'll love forever.
And if you go back to that scene with Omar, like the dude offered him the 500, and he was like, get the fuck out of here. Like he knew his worth even before he got into the table to negotiate. He like, you ain't gonna throw me no little rinky dink or whatever to do a little bellboy favor. Like I know my worth and I know the game already. I just know to get in it. So you're not gonna throw me any crazy number and be like, yes, boss, I'm gonna do it. So
100%.
that was the one
100%.
thing about it. It's crazy because I spoke to my mom about it because she knows I'm infatuated with that movie. Um, I didn't know that back in the day there was like a weird controversy that people like actual Cubans was trying to stop it because the bourgeoisie felt a certain way
Yeah.
about it. They weren't even fan of the Margaritos because they all thought that was a myth that Castro threw because they thought we were all hooligans and criminals. He just sprinkled those around there, but the majority of those people were good by the citizens that was really like to do their part for being an American citizen, but they just threw that perception that everybody there was a criminal. It got to the point that my mom told me they didn't want to say they came from that era because they automatically thought, oh, what jail you came to, what nut house you came to, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
They were
My
quiet.
grandfather was a Marielito, and he told me, like, when I got a little older and I could understand what they were talking about, he's like, he used to tell me, I don't tell anybody I'm a Marielito. I tell people I got
Yeah,
here after the revolution,
yeah. Oh,
Because the crazy thing is in the movie, his mom is that generation. His mom is that generation telling people like, "Oh, you're giving us a bad name, and you make it hard for Cubans who work hard and come." Like
yeah,
that's why I love that movie, bro.
yeah.
People don't understand. There's so many different characters in that movie that I can relate to. The mom, the sister, Manny, like so many different characters in there that like a Cuban can watch it and be like, "Damn, yeah, my mom
The
is like that,"
swag,
or my
the
grandma.
Cuban swag that we had through the whole movie. Like you see Scarface, that's a male figure in your family that off rip. You know what I mean? Not even if he's like in the illegal game, just the swag he had behind it, just his clothes and the way he was just moving and the walking and the talking and that Cuban arrogance that they have out there. He had that. That's a Scarface taking away
Most
the
people
drug game.
that Tony that Al Pacino actually told Oliver Stone to hire as many Spanish speaking employees for the film as possible. And he made all the Spanish speaking employees on the set that spoke Spanish speak to him in Spanish throughout the whole movie. He didn't
Yeah,
even speak Spanish, but he was so dedicated to like staying in kind of like that mindset of a Cuban that that's one of the things he did. And again, not for nothing, but Al Pacino is the greatest actor of all time. Let's just get that out there.
yeah.
And no one else could have pulled this off. No
Nah.
one else.
No. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. So yeah, I was learning about that or whatever the case may be. And I've been watching a lot of clips online, like the real like Maridito thing or whatever, because I have friends sending me like clips or whatever, like what happened, like
You
that
get
really
that clip
happened. Like,
of that page, Miami Stadium, that I sent you? It's a page I follow called Miami
yeah,
Stadium.
you said to me, yeah,
And
yep.
it's
So
all clips of like stuff that happened in the 80s in Miami. It's really cool.
yeah, like sometimes I look at those clips, I tell mom, yo, you survived that shit? Oh, blessings. Oh, you was trooper. Like my
That's
mom
Miami.
and pop survived that shenanigans. Forget yo. That's why one of the running jokes that my mom told me because sometimes she keep like those Scarface pictures. Yo, if I would have been here 20 years ago with at least like the right people, I would have gotten fucking rich already. But when you don't have it, I would have been fucking rich. It's so fucking easy to get money here, legal and illegally.
That's
But if
funny.
I would have gotten here legally, and if I would have got, she said, if I would have came at least with one of my sisters out here, we would have ran amok. We would have definitely ran amok. Cause out here is good. It's easy. I ain't gonna say it's easy to get it. You could get it if you strive for it, but you can't do it by yourself. You need a team. You need a team, regardless of what you do. You could beat the head honcho, but the head honcho need like a team behind them to tell them how to move. And that's the one thing. If he had been here 20 years ago, whatever, and I would have had the family, we would have fucking. I would have owned Massachusetts. You know what I mean? Cause
Yeah,
with
but
the
that's the thing about us when we get out of Cuba. Like we're so hungry. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You put a Cuban anywhere, Spain, Mexico, United States, Colombia, wherever, Cuban's gonna succeed.
yeah.
You'll find a Cuban anywhere succeeding everywhere except Cuba.
No, that's what. Yeah. That's because those fuckers don't let you.
Pretty
So
much.
that's a fucking tragedy behind that, man. Um, it's funny. I had a guy on my show. He does radio. He's Cuban, and fuck, I forgot the quote, but he said something to the effect of like you get a Cuban to hire, he'll become your worker, but then you keep him around, he becomes your boss. Something to that effect. Something to that effect. And it was I think it was an Ecuadorian that told him that story. That told him
Mm,
that. He like, yeah, I seen how y'all move. Y'all on it. Y'all on it like that. That's why I fuck it. I'll touch a little bit. That's why they have like a little bit. I know with Latin America, even with the outcap, the result of the voting that happened, you have Latin America. They have this really weird like resentment towards us, just because on how we move, and even the way we game political game. Because if we see something, we peep game, and we find a way to just like take over the situation, whether it's in business, whether it's in politics, whether it's in entertainment, whether in company. Like we know how to contribute, and not only that, we know how to be our own bosses. We don't know how to be workers, and I've
right.
seen that.
100%.
I've seen that towards our people. I see it in Florida all the time. It's funny because I see like other nationalities for years they trying to like take over Miami, and they just gave up. They can't because they realize there's too many of us. We got the thing locked. It-
100%.
it- it's like we damn near got a Jewish mentality.
This is the anti-capitalist. This is the anti-communist capital of the world, and I'm proud to say that shit.
Yeah, preach on, brother, preach on. So, what's up next for Nelson, man?
I'm really excited about a lot of episodes that are coming out now. Like I said, stay tuned for that Cocaine Cowboys interviews. I have a plan to drop. It's actually a two-part series. I'm planning on dropping it the first week of May. So stay tuned for that,
Yeah,
and just expand the podcast, man. Just more guests, more stories, and I'm still working on my comic book. I'm pretty much done writing it. Just gotta get an artist to start drawing it out. That's a big ambition of mine to bring out a comic book. And the media company, check us out, rawmediaofficial.com. Check us out on Instagram at rawmediaofficial. And check out the podcast, Honor Among Thieves.
yeah. I remember you spoke on that because I remember you had an episode with Spaghetti, and you mentioned about your podcast. I don't want to touch into it because I know that's your little top secret thing, but you did mention you do want to do like some kind of feature film about that or somewhere soon. So if you do want to make
I'm
a true
excited
feature
about
free,
that.
holla at your boy on that one. Let me get an audition out there. Let me play.
Uh,
Let me play one of
The
the
whole
what.
that's gonna be 100% Cuban talent, 100% Cuban original, 100% Cuban story. I'm gonna film it in Miami. That's like my alma. That's the holy grail. That's what I hope to leave behind. The whole purpose of that story that I'm writing with the comic book is
Yeah,
to display our culture to the world in a way it's never been done before.
I won that call. I'm getting first dibs. I won that damn. No, not even. I won a shortcut. I won the damn role in that movie, so I won that. I'm trying to
You got
update
it.
my resume because I got 3 films I'm working on right now. So I
You
got some
got it,
stuff
bro.
cooking right now. So keep me posted on that one because I know you're gonna make it happen.
100%.
Yeah,
100%, my
man.
brother.
So yo, man, it is what it is. It's your boy, keep it Mike. You listen to the Ruckus podcast. Nelson, 100. Thank you, man. It's been long overdue. I'm hitting over there this summer, so hopefully I can return the favor and I'll be able to do a podcast with you because now you're thinking a little bit more upgraded right now. So now you're doing pretty good for yourself at this moment. So you got a good momentum there. So hopefully I can return the favor and do an episode with you real soon down there and make it happen.
Sounds good, brother. Let's link up when you're done.
100%, man. This is Keep It Mike. You listen to the Ruckus podcast in collaboration with the Tape Hour. I'll see y'all next time. And it is what it is, y'all. Peace. Let me pause that for